Welcome to the Dr. Gundry podcast. All right, this one is going to be fun because I get to see this all the time. What do you do when you're eating right, but you're not losing weight? Wow, do I get to hear this all the time. It is one of the biggest complaints that I hear, and I get it. There's a lot of reasons for this, and we're going to break it down. Okay, you're eating all the right foods. You follow the Dr. Gundry yes and no list to the T, and the scale still doesn't budge. So this episode is for you. Weight loss isn't just about what you eat. It's all about the signals that you send to your body all day long. When you eat, when you sleep, how much you sleep, how you move, and whether your body feels safe enough to let go of calories, let go of fat. So, people often come to me. They say, I don't get it. I'm following all the rules. I'm eating healthy. I'm eating clean. I love that expression. Why am I stuck? So let's break down some of the most common problems that I see. First of all, number one, it's the late evening snacking. Yes, there are approved foods, but just because a food is approved doesn't mean that you should be eating it after, say, 7 o'clock at night. So many of my patients think they have to have a little treat before they go to bed. But one of the things we've learned about sleep is you need about 3 hours between your last bite of food before you go to bed. And the reason for that is your brain literally undergoes a deep cleaning every night. And it usually occurs during deep sleep. And most deep sleep occurs during the first part of the sleep cycle. And during that deep cleaning, you actually dramatically increase blood flow to your brain to drive this wash cycle. And there's this cleaning system is called the glymphatic system of the brain, but there won't be a test. If you eat near the time of bedtime, when you eat, the blood flow to your gut increases dramatically because it's in the process of digestion. So if you eat near the time you go to bed, that blood flow is down in your gut and it's not available to go up to your brain for deep cleaning. And getting your brain cleaned every night is really, really important to stop signals to eat the next day. And we know that people who eat in the evening have much worse long-term outcomes in terms of weight gain. Now, one of the most interesting studies that I wrote about years ago is they took a bunch of college students and they put them in a sleep lab and they let them sleep 8 hours. And then they measured 2 hormones. One is called leptin, which basically tells the brain you're not hungry. And the other is ghrelin, which basically tells the brain you're really hungry. So after getting 8 hours of sleep, the ghrelin levels, the hunger hormone, was very low. And the leptin levels, the anti-hunger hormone, was very high. Okay, they repeat the experiment. They let the students only sleep 6 hours, and they woke them up. Guess what happened? The ghrelin levels were high, the hunger hormone, and the leptin levels were low. Oops, the lack of 2 hours of sleep completely changed the hunger hormones. Now here's the fun part. They repeated the experiment. They told the students that they were going to wake them up in 6 hours. But they let them sleep for 8 hours. What do you guess happened? Go to the head of your class if you said exactly as if they had slept 6 hours. They slept 8 hours, but they thought they were only going to get 6 hours of sleep. So their ghrelin levels were high and their leptin levels were low. So just the thought that they weren't going to sleep as long preconditioned their hormone response. Now, what drives this is, it's, believe it or not, this deep sleep. So close the kitchen down. You're not allowed to revisit the kitchen after 7 o'clock at night. No, you cannot snack. No, you don't need a nightcap. No, you don't need just one little treat before you go to bed. It's that important and that easy to do. Stopping snacking right before you go to bed and getting serious sleep is the other thing. Now, there's a lot of tricks. Interestingly enough, sleep is initiated by a drop in body temperature, and that happens consistently. That's why one of the sad things about climate change is we're actually no longer seeing temperatures drop at night to below body temperature in many places in this country and actually the world. And one of the consequences of that is our sleep quality is deteriorating dramatically because we're not going to sleep as quickly as we normally do. It's called sleep latency. If you have a Oura Ring or a Whoop band, they'll track your sleep latency. And getting to sleep quickly is actually a really good sign of overall health. So when you don't sleep well, your ghrelin levels go up. And what happens? You want to eat. I can assure you, as a heart surgeon and as a resident in cardiothoracic surgery, we didn't sleep much. And it's no surprise to me that I was constantly hungry and constantly looking for sugary foods to keep going. And it's no surprise to me that I was a big fat guy because I was constantly getting these signals. And even though I, was a professor at a Seventh-day Adventist institution and I was eating healthy, mostly vegetarian food, my weight kept going up and up, even though I was running 30 miles a week and going to the gym 1 hour a day. But I was insatiably hungry. So that's number 2. So sleep is really a big part of this program to lose weight. Number 3, one of the things I've learned repeatedly from spending time in Europe and in Asia, particularly Japan, is this practice of walking after dinner. It is amazing how people walk after dinner. Now, I'm not talking a workout. These people are strolling after dinner. And it's not long. It's 10 minutes. But they're out, they're looking in shops, they're talking to people, they're strolling. In fact, I like to imitate Italian men. Italian men always clap their hands behind their back as they stroll. And it drives my wife crazy, but that's what Italian men do. But the idea of walking after dinner is really grounded in science. So they took a bunch of people and they could divide them into 2 groups. One group walked 10 minutes before dinner, and the other group walked 10 minutes after dinner. And they looked at weight loss. The people who walked 10 minutes before dinner had no benefit. The people who walked 10 minutes after dinner actually lost weight. Now, if you think about it from an evolutionary perspective, let's put it this way. Your dog runs or walks for only one reason, and that's to find food. Otherwise, it has no business doing anything but sleeping. In fact, most of the great predators, think about it, all they do is sleep. They only move to find food. When they find food, what do? They rest because they don't need any more food. Same way with us. If you look at hunter-gatherers, they move to find food. They usually bring the food back in the evening and they're done. They're not going anywhere after that. On the other hand, if you eat and then start moving, the signal in your body goes, whoa, wait a minute. We're moving. Who knows if we're going to walk a mile or 20 miles. I can't take this food and store it as fat. I have to have it available. So you actually block that signal that you're not going anywhere, and you might as well turn this into fat for when you need it. And so it actually sets up this wonderful system that you're not going to take that food you just ate and store it as fat because it looks like you're going to need it. And just that little 10-minute signal is all you need to switch from fat storage mode to fat burning mode. And it works in humans. So take a walk after dinner. You don't need to run. You don't need to exercise. Just walk. One way to think about it is take your blood sugar for a walk. All right, next. If you follow the GLP-1 trend, you, I hope, are aware that one of the side effects of all of these medications is a profound loss of muscle. Up to 44% of weight loss is muscle. Now, muscle is the customer that buys the food you eat and uses it. So muscle is the customer that insulin sells the food to. And if the muscles are hungry, then insulin has an easy job of selling the food you eat to them. If the muscles aren't hungry, then insulin has to get rid of the food you eat. And so if the muscles aren't going to buy it, if they're insulin resistant, if they're resistant to the sales pitch that insulin is making, then insulin sells it to fat cells because it knows that the fat cells will be more than happy to buy what insulin is selling. So the more muscles you have, and the hungrier you are, the more you will sell the food to the muscles and not to fat cells. So the converse of that is if 40% of your weight loss was muscle mass, when you come off of these drugs, and you will come off of these drugs, you've got nobody to sell the food you're eating to. Just this past week, one of my patients who has been on one of these drugs, I do not prescribe them, but I'll be honest, a number of my patients use them or are on them when they come to see me. She had lost 30 pounds in about a year, and she had kind of some of the typical side effects, and she thought the side effects were bad enough that she wanted to come off the drug, and she did. Within a month of coming off the drug, she had already gained 15 of the 30 pounds back in 1 month, even though she was eating clean. Why? Because she had lost the customers that were going to eat the food she was eating. And of course, with no place to sell that food, insulin sold it to her fat stores. And that's what we've seen in every study about these drugs. The weight loss comes back fast and furious, and most people then overshoot above their beginning weight. That's because they've lost the muscle mass. So what's the key to that? Well, the key is you got to keep your muscle mass intact. Now, here's the bad news. Most of us, as we age, lose muscle. It's a, quote, natural part of aging. I can assure you it's not a natural part of aging, but we're not going to talk about that today. Most of your muscle mass is in your butt and your thighs. 60% of all your muscle mass is there. So you want to work on butt and thigh muscle mass. Deep knee bends, squats, the leg machines, the butt machines. What you don't want to do is build guns. Yeah, guns are great, but it's not going to burn the calories. It's not going to be who you're going to sell food to. It's in your butt and your thighs. Jack LaLanne, who I knew in his later years, the godfather of fitness, always used to tell me that there's 2 exercises and only 2 for perfect health. And that's squats, deep knee bends, and planks or push-ups. It uses all your muscle groups, but most importantly, the real key muscle groups that keep your muscles hungry. And so many times people just don't realize that they've got to keep their muscles hungry. Otherwise, they will never lose those pounds they keep thinking, I don't know why I'm stuck. Finally, and this is to make you feel a little bit better, and I know this from personal experience, people have set points where your body will sense that you're losing too much weight and your body thinks you're literally starving to death. And it will go to extremes to try and convince you to eat. Now, I started my weight loss journey at 228 pounds. I'm a big fat boy. 200 pounds was one of my most troublesome weights. I could not get off of that set point. Oh yeah, I'd get down to 198, and then 2 days later I was 202. And I must have spent 6 weeks, 2 months just sitting there. And I've written about this, and you go, this isn't working. This diet isn't working. That's it. This is another failure. You just got to sit there. Don't change a thing. Another one of my set points was 180. I can't tell you how long I sat at 180. And it really frustrating because you go, what the heck? And this is your body. And looking back at those times, what was happening was, yeah, I was eating all the right things, but there was little bits here and there of, well, I'm doing so well. I can have an extra piece of chocolate today, or I'm doing so well, I can have another handful of nuts. And my body was sabotaging me into saying, yeah, you really should have another handful of nuts. You really should have another piece of chocolate because, you're wasting away and we got to save your life. So those little self-talks that I was unaware of was actually trying to tell me, no, you're not going any lower than this. So look, when you hit a set point, and you will, just look at how you're unconsciously sabotaging your efforts. And you'll start to see it. And it's actually your body going, no. We've got to save your life. You're starving, and I'm going to help you. So those are some of the tricks to get off of that plateau and get started again.